Hello again, friends. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate all your following, all your subscription. For those who haven't subscribed, always remember to subscribe, to like, to share. It's always good to share. Sharing is caring. Okay? If there's good information out there, of course, you want your friends, your family, your community to know about it. Because I'll tell you, lack of information is what is leaving a lot of our communities, our people behind. Lack of information. Okay, I previously, like a few months ago, I did an application for this family that the wife had been here for 6 years. She was already a permanent resident. But because she had come through refugee, she didn't know she could bring her husband, her children. So all this time she was going back to Africa, visiting, but she didn't know that she could bring them. I know it sounds like, how does this person not know? They don't have the information. Lack of information. I've seen it. It happens a lot. When you don't have the information or you have the wrong information. So when someone comes to Canada and they become a permanent resident or they become a citizen, they can sponsor their spouse. Your spouse is somebody who you're married to. You have to have a legal document called marriage certificate. There are other types of marriages that are acceptable, but you need more proof, not just because you don't have a marriage certificate. Now you have to produce joint bank statements, joint properties, joint lease. Maybe you're leasing a house or an apartment, or you have a mortgage together with your significant other. That is acceptable as proof that you are cohabiting, you're living together with this person. Okay, can be either gender, because in Canada you're allowed legally. You can marry boy, can marry girl, can marry. There's no gender restriction. You can marry who you want as long as they are a human being. You can marry them. As long as they are not underage, you can marry them. As long as they are not an animal, you can marry them. So that's Canada. So your spouse who you have a marriage certificate with, a conjugal partner who you're living with, but maybe you're not allowed to marry legally, or a common law is also another one that's accepted, and that's somebody you're living with, you have children with, you have your whole family knows you're together. You've just never had a marriage ceremony. This happens a lot in back home, where people would gather two families together. It would be agreed this woman is going to be married to this man, and now you're married and you have children and you have everything together. You just don't have a legal document. This used to happen a lot during our parents' days, still going on in some communities. So you still have to prove that it's you've lived with this person, you have children with this person, you have joint properties with this person. Okay, so those marriages are acceptable. So these people who are your spouse, your conjugal partner, your common law partner, they can sponsor you as long as they are Canadian citizens or permanent resident. They can sponsor you for permanent residency. So the application is quite lengthy. It used to be a quick 6 months if you can prove that you're in a real relationship with this person, a genuine relationship. The application will be put in. They would conduct, of course, they make sure that the documents you're submitting are legal and they're the truth, and then you would be called for an interview. The person back home would be called for an interview at the Canadian VFS. They would be called for an interview. They would be interviewed, and then they would get their documentation, confirmation of permanent residency, and then once they entered Canada, they would be issued permanent residency. This is taking longer now. We're seeing it take up to 1 year. In some countries, it's taking 2 years. I've seen some countries with a lot of applications taking it up to 3 years. But you have to start the documentation in order for the process to be underway. If you don't put the application, there's nothing you can do. They can come for a visit, but they're not a permanent resident, okay? So the only people that can sponsor you is your spouse, is your child who maybe came to Canada. You send them here for school. They finish school. Now they are a permanent resident. They can sponsor you as a parent. A parent can sponsor a child. A child who is over 18 can sponsor a parent. A minor child who's under 18 cannot legally consent to sponsor a parent. So those are the classifications of people who can sponsor you. People have sent me questions. Oh, I have a guy I met online on dating site. We've been talking. Can they sponsor me? Note the term sponsorship. Sponsorship is someone taking the obligation to either permanently sponsor you for a job or anything like that. It's a very legal term. So no, your newfound love that you found online who is a Canadian citizen cannot sponsor you. They can invite you. They can invite you to come to Canada for a visit. You can stay with them for 2-3 months. If you can prove you're only coming for a visit and then to return in your country. Remember, I've done a video where what does it mean and why do they look at all your documents, your bank statements, your social ties in your country. They want to make sure you're coming for that purpose and you will return to your country. Remember I said the law assumes that if you're coming from another country, a third world country, there's a likelihood that you could like what's going on in these countries abroad and you could decide you don't want to return. So it's your duty to convince the visa officer that you're only coming for the purpose which you have said you're coming. You're coming to visit your newfound love that you've met online, and you will return to your country. So a boyfriend, girlfriend can invite you, but they cannot sponsor you. The only classification of sponsorship are the ones I discussed. A spouse, a child who's over 18 sponsoring the parents, a parent sponsoring their children. A parent can sponsor their children up to the age of 22. The current age is 22, but that child has, of course, to be dependent on the parent. They have to prove that they are depending on their parent for school fees, so they have to be in school, and they have to be unmarried. They have to not have children. You can still sponsor them if they are married and they have children, but then you need a higher income to satisfy that requirement. So those are the classification of sponsorship, and I hope people get the different meanings, because people ask me, can a boyfriend sponsor me? No, legally they cannot. They are not your spouse. So they cannot sponsor you, but they can invite you. You can come on a visit visa. All right, I hope today I've covered sponsorship and you have a better idea of exactly how that works and who can sponsor and who cannot. All right, thank you. Subscribe, like, share, comment so that I know what I've not covered, so that I can see what I need to cover, and always subscribe so that I can keep getting encouraged to give you more information, to bring you more videos. All right, we'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.